Welcome to the mouth of the River Spey. What may look like sandbars there is actually shingle. That's pebbles and cobbles and boulders and everything in between, all carried down the river from inland, much of it from the Cairngorm Mountains. The Spey is known as the fastest river in Scotland. It has a huge mountainous catchment area that often feeds spates and floods along its length to the sea. At 107 miles, it is the second longest in Scotland after the River Tay, just beating the Clyde by 1 mile. The estuaries, ever-shifting channels and islands, the marshlands and lagoons are home to a vast array of wildlife. The area is indeed a wildlife reserve, and it is also a site of special scientific interest due to its geology and one of the largest shingle systems in Britain. The small village called Spey. Slightly confusing name, I think, a bit like New York, New York. Spey Bay. That's the old fishing station, now a wildlife centre with a shop and a cafe. The grass-topped buildings there aren't hangars, but the roof of the underground icehouse, the largest in Scotland and nearly 200 years old. Ice stored here in winter would last all year and be used to pack the fish for shipping all over the UK. Over 20 boats plied the London market alone. I would bet that anywhere in the world where you could be watching this video, you won't be that far away from somewhere you could get a bottle that holds some water from the River Spey. If by chance you just happen to be sipping a little Scottish whisky right now, you may indeed be holding some in your hand. Speyside is the most productive whisky region in Scotland, boasting no less than 50 distilleries. The Spey Viaduct, the last of 30 bridges and one dam along the length of the river. 3 years to build and opened in 1886 for the railway line from Buckie to Elgin. It was only in service for 82 years when the line was closed in 1968 as part of a reduction in rail services due to the rise of road transport. The bridge was an impressive structure in its day and still is. Now a footbridge and a great experience as part of the long distance walks of the Speyside Way and the Moray Coastal Trail. You would never guess it today, but the quiet village of Garmouth here, along with Kingston, was one of the largest shipbuilding sites in Britain. For over 100 years, from the late 1700s, more than 300 ships of all types and sizes were built from the quality wood that came from the trees that were floated down the River Spey from the forests around the Cairngorms. At its height in the mid-1800s, there were 7 shipyards here, employing hundreds of workers. Spey-built ships were world-class and sailed all the world's oceans. The village of Kingston-on-Spey was originally the dockyards for the first shipbuilders to start their operations here. They called it Kingston Port, after their port of origin, Kingston upon Hull. If you're lucky, you may spot some dolphins offshore. Best bring some binoculars or a scope for better views. A couple of months ago I managed to catch this footage of some of them a bit along the coast from here at Burgh Head. The shingle beaches run 3 miles east and this way 6 miles west of the estuary. The overall expanse of the shingle beds and the timescales of their formation are hard to appreciate. It is believed that the erosion of the cairngorms began up to 400 million years ago, and it has been said that what we see there today are just the eroded stumps of once much higher mountains. The World War II concrete bollards and pillboxes seen here run almost as far along the coast as the shingle. This has been called the Sea of Stones, and it is just a small part of the shingle beds that are still visible on the surface. The parallel ridges running along them are old shorelines, left behind as the land rebounded upwards after the last ice age 10,000 years ago. The other notable feature here is, of course, the old army rifle range cutting across the stone beds. Information about it is sketchy, but it seems the strip of land dates to the war years, and it was only later it became a firing range. I can only speculate on the strip of land's original purpose, but there are reports of there being aircraft navigational markers on the ground nearby. The good news is it was decommissioned a few years ago, and so there are never any walking restrictions here anymore. Follow the shingle a few more miles along the coast and you'll find a quarry where they are bagging up bits of the cairngorms to allow us to adorn our gardens with a little piece of geological history. There is another quarry more than a mile inland from here that also harvests cobbles. In 1940, Britain was worried about German invasion forces coming from occupied Norway. The extensive coastal defences here included these gun emplacements and lookout posts. There are also several surviving support buildings in the now tree-covered dunes behind. A couple of years ago, someone erected fences around the main buildings here, presumably because of structural fears. I was pretty unhappy about that, and clearly I was not the only one, because it was not long before someone opened one up. It seems a shame that this interesting piece of history would be closed off to people. Rather than spending time and money in fences, how about a few screw jacks and beam supports and clearing the weight off the roofs? Just saying. I don't think we fully know the extent of the shingle beds under much of the Moray coastal plains, but it's at least tens of square miles. How many trillions of pebbles would that be? Pebbles that all have their own ancient story. Can anyone shed some light on the purpose of these mounds? Something to do with the shipyards or the war defences? That's an old, long-abandoned rifle range. Could it be said that the River Spey has transported away as much of the Cairngorms as is left? One thing we can legitimately say is that the River Spey has moved mountains.